Hello everyone, this is Ben back with you in the model shop. Today we go over the completion of our Albatros D.V by Wingnut Wings. We just go ahead and do the final details, putting together some of the things on the engine, get all the decals on, and we also carve our wooden propeller. A long time ago I got real lazy about learning how to paint the wooden propellers so that they look good. I thought at this scale I might as well go ahead and just make one. So carve a wooden propeller, get that put on, and then we finish it all up. Do a little side-by-side next to the Hanover kit that I built a long time ago, so you get to check that out. Thanks a lot for everyone who watched and followed along in this video. I know there were a few of you who wanted to see the plane finished up, and it turned out really nice. It was a fun little build, nice switch, and yeah, that's it. Next video series we're going to do, it's probably going to take a little while to get going, but I have a 1/700 scale Bismarck that I'm going to be putting together by Propeller. So keep an eye out. I hope shortly here to be doing an introduction video on that, showing all the stuff that I got for it, and we'll document that build. So without further ado, let's finish up this build on the Albatros D.V, and hope everybody's having a good week. We'll see you guys later. Well, back in action everyone. A little bit of finished details added here. We've got our water lines installed for the radiator and the exhaust. Right up there I had to hollow it out so it wasn't just a solid piece of plastic. Spray painted it with flat coat of black, and then hit it with some rust, and then I even hit it with some a rust wash, and looks nice. So now there's a couple little details left, but the big one is the propeller. I'm terrible at painting propellers, although I'm sure if I applied myself a little better I could do a decent job, but I like to do something fun with these kits because they're so big. I like to make a propeller. So these are three very thin pieces of wood that I cut and then planed out in the garage. It's probably a 32nd thick. This is cherry, and this is, I believe, leftover poplar. It's white. So we're going to make a sandwich out of these. Got to glue it together so they're laminated just like the real thing. And this works out to just a hair thicker than the kit plastic propeller. And then we will, this is just one I was using as to make sure I got my parts right, but we'll trace out the general shape and carve this out. I did it on the other aircraft, the Hanover. I did the same thing. It turns out really nice. You just get, I mean, it's hard to beat wood. Even at this scale, it's got such a tight grain, it ends up looking good. So let's get this glued up, and then we'll go ahead and start marking things out to cut it. Alright, so we've got our little sandwich of wood all glued up. Just a quick look here. Hopefully you can see from this angle the bottom piece of cherry is a little bit thicker than the top. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and take it out in the garage and plane it up so that the thicknesses are the same. And I actually need to lose a little bit of thickness. This propeller is the one that's actually supposed to go on this version of the Albatros. Slightly disappointed about it because it's really thin and kind of plain looking, but see, I'm going to set it on here, and then I guess I marked it off on this side. Yeah, I drew a little bit of a line with the pencil. I'm going to cut this on the bandsaw there, you can see my line, so I don't have quite as much material to have to carve off to get to the shape. And if I screw up, there's enough room for a second if I really want, or I could just, you know, paint this and use it. So that's the great part about this process, is if you mess up, there's a bunch of backups. So anyway, I'm going to take this outside. I'm going to plane down this side to get this thickness the same as the propeller. And I really think kind of that's the first step here from when I did this before. Trying to make this not blurry. Not including that hub, you can see right there the width of the, it's not quite a 1/4 inch thick of the wood, the prop. That's what we're looking for on the thickness of this piece. And then that's a known dimension, and then we can just leave that in the middle and work away everything else. So I'm going to go clean this up, come back in and start carving and show you some progress, and hopefully you'll see how this all works out. Alright, little update. That's just the rough carved shape layout there, and from here we could start sorting out some of the finer details, and we'll start getting the angle dialed in to the propeller. As you can see, the blade's really thin, so it's going to be important to establish probably the back side of the camber, the propeller first, and then after that we'll thin it out and work on the back side and get the final shape done. Alright, pressing on. Alright, now we've got the basic shape of the propeller sorted out, and now we need to start refining things. Now at this point, when I remove the wood, I got to be a little bit more careful about what I'm doing, but we'll just slowly work our way down to the size and shape of the plastic piece. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So, whoops, sorry. Alright, so this is the way this thing is supposed to assemble. You've got your hub, and there's this keyed shape in the back here, and the propeller sits on it. There you go. It sits like so. So here's my wood prop that I've carved up. You'll notice, if you look real carefully, I ended up just a shade short on length, but I think it's okay. The central hub needs some trimming down to make smaller, but I'm actually not going to worry about that because I do plan on putting the spinner cone on, which goes on top of this. That also means I don't have to worry about this detail right there that bolts the hub on. On the Hanover, I had to cut that off and attach it, and I'll show you that. I'll show you guys that detail on that propeller when I'm done with this one. So really the only thing left to do, I like to put just like a clear gloss coat on top of this. It'll pop out nice, but what I need to do next is drill a couple holes in the back and mimic the shape of this key so that I can really just glue this thing in place. I probably could get away with just making one big hole, since that center hole will glue onto the spinner on the engine right there, the drive shaft. So yeah, the next thing is drill the hole out, finish sanding, and get it clear coat put on it, get the decals and everything, and yeah, we're almost done. It's pretty close to being exactly like this one. Let's see if I can do this here. Set on top, and I'll move the camera so I can see. So you can see the center hub's a little big, but everything else looks alright, and we don't care too much about the center. So we got that neat wood grain effect, and matches the profile, and looks neat. I didn't even have to paint it. So, alright, I know a lot of unnecessary fiddling around, but let's go ahead and wrap up this propeller. Alright, so just a quick update here. I had to cut out a square hole, and then I had also needed to trim up this center part here for this to fit. I kind of realized, like, I was spending a bunch of time monkeying around with this, and it's like it just needs to go on there. And then take the plastic spinner, and it looks like that. I mean, the whole thing's got to be glued in place, but because for some reason this wiggles around. But otherwise, I mean, there you have it. It's a wooden prop. I think it's going to work just fine. So we'll get this gloss coated and glued together, and the decals put on it and stuck on the plane, and we'll wrap it up. Let's go ahead and do that next. Alright, one more real quick thing before we finish this up. A little bummed. I put this hub on the shaft of the engine. As you can see, there's a gap underneath there, and don't really know. I mean, the engine's the right shape. All I can really figure is that I Got it mounted a little bit high. Not totally sure how that happened. So when you put the propeller on the hub, as you can see, there will be a gap like this. So that's kind of frustrating. Not really sure how that happened. I double checked the instructions, but anyway, unless I could come up with another solution here shortly, that's just the way this one's going to end up being. I guess we just live and learn. Real quick, I got the gloss coat on the propeller. It's just got to dry up. We'll get the decals on it, get it all assembled, get this thing painted, and we'll wrap it up. Well, here we are, everyone. We are finished. This is the end of my Albatros D.V by Wingnut Wings. So we're just going to wiggle a little bit here. Let's take a look at our propeller. This is all wood. Got the little decals put on it. Cherry and I think it's not pine. I think it's the leftover not basswood. I'm sorry. Oh goodness, it'll come to me in a second here. Anyway, we got our little wiggles because the thing shakes around. The engine detail, I think, turned out really nicely here. We got our radiator lines connected, running up to the top, and we also installed the exhaust pipe, and I drilled out the hole down here. This was just filled in solid black or solid plastic. I drilled it out. Got that all installed. Put our little final little decals and details in place. See if we can peek up in here. That is actually not an airspeed indicator. That is a tachometer. The airspeed indicator is way out there on the wing. It's pretty useless. I watched a video recently, a gentleman who flies these airplanes in real life, and he says you pretty much fly this airplane more by feel and sound of the engine, and I can understand that. A lot of small airplanes, you learn to stall an airplane when you get your private pilot's license, and that's all by feel. I mean, the stall indicator's going off and the airspeed indicator's going off, but the aircraft takes on its own characteristic, and you can tell when you're going fast and when you're going slow. It'll speak to you, quote unquote. I did mention, just peek at the engine detail over here real quick on this side of things. So while I'm zooming in here, I did mention that you can see the machine guns and everything, that I was disappointed about this gap right here between the spinner and the cowl. It's a little exaggerated, but it's not too bad. I went and looked at some pictures, looked at pictures of the real thing, did some searches of current aircraft, examples that are flying there. It turns out there is a gap there that's pretty reasonable in size. So that's it. That's our Wingnut Wings Albatros D.V. I've got a D.V A up in the closet that eventually I'm going to build, so I held on to all the extra parts from this kit because a lot of the pieces from this kit go up are D.V A parts, so I've got backups. I think real quick, since I made this propeller, and like I said, it's wood. This is real wood here. I'm going to grab my Hanover, which I made out of wood, and that one I actually had to finish the detail and put the other little spinner on it. So let me grab that. We'll pull it out, put it next to this one, just take a quick comparison peek. Alright, there's my Hanover here on the left. This airplane I've got a video on that you can see how I finished it up. It's substantially larger than the Albatros, but it's not a fighter. It's got a little in the back here, an area for a gunner, you can see with the machine gun, and then let's see if you can see in the bottom here, there's the camera hole. It would take aerial photographs. So but again, with this piece I wanted to make a wooden propeller laminated. So same deal here. Just went ahead and, you know, put it all together and carved it up and put the decals on it, and then obviously because it was going to be, you need that plastic detail right there, I went ahead and cut it off the prop and glued it on the front, the plastic one. And here's our spinner on, again, one more time. Slightly different shape on the Albatros, but turned out cool. So anyway, guys and gals, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. We'll come back one of these days in the future. We'll do the Albatros D.V, which will come up with some fun, exciting colors, I think, to paint it and see what we can do. Alright, guys and gals, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have a good week.